Amara, a 26-year-old tech consultant from Kigali, thought she had just married the love of her life, Jabari. Their wedding was beautiful, full of laughter, music, and family. Everyone said they were the perfect couple. For their honeymoon, they flew to a luxury resort in Zanzibar. But what Jabari didn't know was that Amara had been watching quietly for months. She had seen the signs, the strange late-night texts, the way he always smiled when his cousin called, the credit card bills that didn't make sense. Amara never confronted him. She smiled, kissed him, and planned the wedding like nothing was wrong. But inside, she was building a plan, one calm step at a time. She wanted proof, not just suspicions. She knew this honeymoon wasn't just a celebration, it was a test. And if Jabari failed, she would be ready. So while he was laughing and drinking, thinking he had fooled her, Amara stayed quiet. She played her role, but her heart was no longer his. She had already started writing the ending to their story, and this time, it would be her story, not his. On the third day of their honeymoon, the sun was shining, the waves were soft, and the air smelled like fresh flowers and sea salt. Everything seemed perfect on the outside. Jabari told Amara that morning he was going to the beach spa for a massage to relax. He smiled, kissed her forehead, and walked out of the room with his usual charm. Amara smiled back, nodded, and waited. But the moment the door closed behind him, her smile disappeared. Her heart was heavy, but her mind was sharp. She had a strange feeling that this was the moment she had been waiting for. Quietly, without putting on her shoes, she stepped out of the room and followed him. Her feet touched the warm sand as she moved quickly but silently through the resort. Her heart was beating so fast, like it wanted to jump out of her chest. But she kept walking. She followed him from a distance, careful not to be seen. She hid behind palm trees, kept her head down, and stayed in the shadows. Then she saw him. Jabari was in one of the resort's private cabanas, the kind you have to book in advance. He wasn't alone. Sitting across from him, laughing and holding his hand, was a woman Amara knew too well, Kina, the same Kina he once introduced as his cousin from Mbeya, the same Kina who had sent late-night messages and called at strange hours, the same Kina whose name came up too many times when Jabari said it was just family. Amara's stomach turned, but she didn't make a sound. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't run. She stood still for a moment, hidden behind a leafy tree, watching quietly. Then she saw it. Jabari leaned in and kissed Kina, slowly and with no guilt at all. It was soft, romantic, like something out of a movie. But for Amara, it was a final answer. She pulled out her phone with calm hands. Her fingers didn't shake. She pressed record and aimed the camera at the couple in the cabana. She zoomed in and captured every second. The kiss, the laughs, the way Jabari gently tucked Kina's hair behind her ear. She filmed it all, quietly, coldly, without emotion. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to confront him. She had what she came for. After a minute, she stopped recording, slipped the phone into her dress pocket, and walked away, slowly, like nothing had happened. As she walked back to their honeymoon suite, the world around her seemed too beautiful for what had just happened. Children were playing in the pool, waiters were serving fresh juice, and the sun was starting to dip toward the ocean. But inside her, something had changed. She felt both broken and powerful at the same time. She looked at the couple walking past her holding hands and smiled slightly, not because she was happy, but because she had stayed calm when most people would have fallen apart. She knew now, without a doubt, that the man she had married was a liar, a cheater, and a coward. When she entered the room again, Jabari still wasn't back. She sat on the bed and watched the video again, just once, not to hurt herself, but to remind herself that what she felt wasn't a dream. It was real. She took a deep breath and opened her email. She sent the video to 3 people, her lawyer back in Kigali, her best friend, and Jabari's company's HR department. Jabari worked under a strict morality clause at his job. One email was enough to change everything. Then she opened a flight app and booked herself a return ticket home, not in economy, but in business class. She made sure it was for the next day. Later that evening, Jabari walked back into the suite, smiling like nothing had happened. He told her the spa was amazing and that they should get a couples massage tomorrow. Amara smiled back, nodded, and asked him what he wanted for dinner. She even took selfies with him at the restaurant, posted them with sweet captions, and made everything look picture perfect. She laughed at his jokes, held his hand, and toasted to forever. Jabari had no idea what was coming. He didn't know that while he was celebrating, the ground under his feet was already gone. That night, when he fell asleep beside her, Amara lay awake. She stared at the ceiling, not with tears in her eyes, but with peace in her heart. She had seen the truth, she had the proof, and she had already taken the first step toward leaving. Not just leaving him, but leaving the version of herself that once stayed silent. The next day, she would disappear from his life like a whisper, but the echo of what she did would follow him forever. That night at dinner, Amara sat across from Jabari at a candlelit table near the ocean. The sound of waves gently crashing and soft music playing in the background made everything feel like a perfect romantic evening. Jabari smiled at her, acting like the perfect husband. He held her hand, talked about their future, and laughed at nothing, like a man with no secrets. Amara smiled too. She laughed, nodded, and played along like nothing was wrong. She even took out her phone and snapped a few selfies with him, posting them with sweet captions like "Forever Mine" and "Honeymoon Magic." Friends back home commented with hearts and fire emojis. No one knew that behind that smile, Amara had already seen him kissing another woman just hours earlier. But Amara wasn't crying. She wasn't angry anymore. She was focused. While Jabari was talking about the beach trip for the next day, she was thinking about her quiet escape. Earlier that afternoon, she had already booked her return flight, not in economy, but in business class. She chose the earliest one out. She wasn't going to wait. While Jabari was relaxing at the resort, Amara had sent the video, the one of him kissing Kina, to 3 people. First, her lawyer in Kigali, who had promised to handle everything legally. Second, her best friend, who had always supported her. And third, his company's human resources department. Because Jabari worked at a place where image mattered, there was a strict morality clause in his contract. One email was enough, and Amara made sure they saw everything. She sipped her drink slowly, watching Jabari talk like he had done nothing wrong. He didn't know his world was already falling apart. He didn't know that his job, his money, his perfect image were already gone. Amara had moved quietly, calmly, and with so much control that not even a crack in her voice gave her away. She looked beautiful, confident, unbothered. She toasted to love, smiled at the waiter, and complimented the dessert. She made sure Jabari enjoyed his last night as a man who thought he had it all. Tomorrow, he would wake up to a completely different life. And Amara, she would be on a plane, free from his lies, from his games, from his fake love. She wasn't going to scream or argue. She was going to leave with her head high, her dignity untouched, and her revenge quiet, but powerful. Because sometimes, silence speaks louder than shouting. And Amara had learned that the best kind of payback is the one you don't see coming. The next morning, the sun rose softly over the Zanzibar resort, and the ocean breeze blew through the white curtains in their honeymoon suite. Birds chirped gently outside, and everything looked calm. But inside the room, something had changed. Jabari opened his eyes slowly, stretched his arms, and reached out across the bed. But Amara was gone. The sheets beside him were cold. Her bags were missing. Her phone was not on the nightstand. For a few seconds, he was just confused. Maybe she had gone for breakfast, he thought. Maybe she went to the spa. But when he called her name, the silence in the room felt heavy. That's when he looked at his own phone. 12 missed calls, all from his boss. His heart sank. He quickly got out of bed and called back. The voice on the other end wasn't friendly this time. His manager spoke firmly and coldly, asking if the video that had been emailed to the company was real. The video of him kissing another woman. Not just anyone, but the same cousin he had lied about for months. Jabari tried to explain, but no one was listening anymore. The company didn't want drama. They didn't want a scandal. By the end of that call, he was told not to return to the office. His access was blocked. His contract was terminated. Just like that, His career was over, and it was only 9 a.m. He sat down in the empty room, sweating, still shirtless, trying to make sense of it all. He reached for his wallet to book a flight back home, but when he opened his banking app, everything was frozen. His credit cards were declined. He called the bank in a panic, but they told him the accounts had been legally frozen by his wife. Amara had moved fast. With the help of her lawyer, she had taken full control of their joint accounts. Everything had been done within a few hours. She wasn't just angry, she was smart. She had thought of everything. Jabari stood in the middle of the hotel room, looking around, completely lost. The beautiful honeymoon suite, the fancy resort, the romantic plans, all of it now felt like a joke. Amara had vanished without a word. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't cried. She hadn't fought. She had simply left, quiet, clean, final, and that silence was louder than any fight they could have had. Jabari booked the first flight back to Nairobi using his personal savings, the little that was left. When he landed, tired and drained, he took a taxi to his apartment, hoping to just rest and clear his head. But when he reached his building, his mouth dropped. His things were outside. Every bag, every box, every shirt, neatly packed and labelled. There was even a suitcase with his name on it, and sitting right on top of the pile was a large white envelope. It was a court summons. Amara was filing for divorce, and not just any divorce. She wanted everything. She had receipts, videos, emails, and the law on her side. He had nothing but guilt. Neighbours watched from their windows as he stood there, confused, embarrassed, and defeated. Some whispered, some took videos. He picked up the envelope slowly, opened it, and began reading. That's when the full weight of it all hit him. Amara hadn't just left him, she had outsmarted him. While he was busy cheating, lying, and playing games, she was observing, collecting proof, and planning her exit. Every step she took was careful. Every move was timed. He never saw it coming. Back inside what used to be his apartment, there was nothing left of her. No pictures, no clothes, no memories, just empty spaces and a quiet that felt loud. Jabari sat down on one of his boxes and put his head in his hands. Just days ago, he was on a beach, drinking cocktails and calling himself the luckiest man alive. Now he was jobless, cashless, alone, and facing court. And the worst part? He couldn't even hate her, because deep down, he knew he had done this to himself. Amara, somewhere far away, was probably sipping coffee in a peaceful lounge, looking out of a plane window, finally free. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to stay. She simply watched the truth unfold and let consequences do the talking. For Jabari, the honeymoon was over. But for Amara, her real life was just beginning. While Jabari's world was falling apart, Amara's was rising higher than she ever imagined. She didn't return home quietly. She returned with purpose. A few days after she landed, in the middle of the night, she sat alone in her apartment. The lights were dim, and the city outside was calm. She looked at her phone, opened the video she had recorded of Jabari kissing Kina, and watched it one last time. Not with pain, not with sadness, but with power. Then she uploaded it anonymously, using a simple title. This is how you win quietly. No names, no faces shown clearly, just enough to tell a story, a real story, one that so many women would recognize. In just a few hours, the video started spreading. At first, it was slow, a few likes, a few shares. But by morning, thousands had watched it. People commented things like, "She's a genius," "Silent revenge is the best revenge," and "I wish I had her strength." By the third day, the video had 5 million views. It had gone viral not because of drama, but because of how calm, smart, and powerful Amara had been. She didn't scream. She didn't break down. She moved like a queen who had already won. That's what touched people the most. Women from all over Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, and more, started calling her the Queen of Silent Revenge. They made posts, memes, and videos about her. They praised her grace, her control, and her planning. They said she gave them hope. Many said, "She did what I couldn't." Others wrote, I'm taking notes. Even men, some ashamed, some amazed, admitted that she handled the betrayal better than most ever could. She wasn't loud, but her silence spoke louder than any shout. As the video continued to spread, Amara's inbox filled up with messages, not just from fans, but from brands. Major companies saw more than a viral clip. They saw a movement. She was contacted by women's empowerment brands, fashion companies, and even tech firms. They didn't just see a heartbroken wife. They saw a strong, modern woman who stood for self-worth, dignity, and intelligence. They offered her sponsorship deals and wanted to collaborate with her on campaigns about confidence, healing, and quiet strength. Suddenly, Amara, who once planned in silence, was now being heard across the continent. She agreed to a few partnerships, not for fame, but for purpose. She wanted to use her story to speak to women who felt stuck, who felt voiceless, who were too afraid to walk away. She started writing, sharing small thoughts online. Nothing too personal, just wisdom. Short messages like, "You don't need to scream to be powerful," and "Sometimes the quietest woman in the room is the most dangerous." These posts went viral too. People were drawn to her energy, calm, smart, steady, and still, no one really knew her identity. That mystery made her even more powerful. She didn't show her face. She didn't need to. Her message was clear. Her story was enough. Women gave her nicknames: the Planner, the Calm Storm, the Ghost Queen, all names that reflected the way she moved. No anger, no loud exits, just quiet steps that shook the ground. Some media outlets tried to guess who she was, but Amara ignored them. She wasn't doing it for attention. She wasn't chasing clout. She was focused on building something new. She used the money from brand deals to start her own tech platform for women, a place to share stories, offer support, and teach financial independence. Her followers grew by the thousands every day, even though she never showed her face. She became a voice for silent strength. Her best friend, who had stood by her during everything, laughed one day and said, "You turned heartbreak into a business." Amara just smiled. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about becoming more than the pain. She didn't just walk away from Jabari. She outgrew him, outshined him, and outloved herself. The video may have been the beginning, but her real victory was what came after. Jabari, somewhere in a small apartment, probably saw the video too, maybe more than once. He probably read the comments, the praise, the millions of views. But Amara didn't think about him anymore. She had no time for the past. She had become a symbol, a quiet storm that couldn't be stopped. And all of it started with a calm heart, a quiet phone, and the courage to leave. Amara never yelled. She never begged. She just chose herself and let the world watch her rise. 1 year later, everything had changed. Jabari was no longer the proud, successful man he used to be. He was unemployed, living in a small, cramped flat in a quiet part of Nairobi. His phone hardly rang anymore. He still checked it often, hoping for job offers, a second chance, or maybe even a message from Amara. But nothing came. The world had moved on, especially her. Every day felt the same for him, long, lonely, and full of regret. He thought about the moment he lost it all, and the woman who walked away without a single scream, only a plan. Meanwhile, Amara had become a name that people respected and admired. She was now speaking on big stages at women's empowerment events in Accra and other cities. She wore power suits, stood tall, and spoke with calm confidence. Her tech startup, created to support women through education and digital tools, was growing fast. Her face was on magazine covers with titles like Power After Pain. And she didn't break, she built. She had turned her betrayal into strength, and her strength into success. Amara didn't just leave Jabari. She outgrew him in every possible way. While he waited for doors to open, she was busy building her own, and the world watched in awe as the woman who once suffered in silence became a symbol of power.